Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today I'd like to break down the simplest part of Pathfinder 2e's character creation: backgrounds. Backgrounds are the mechanical representation of your character's backstory. Is your rogue super stereotypical and grew up on the streets? If that's the case, you do you, but think about taking the street urchin background. Do you want to have the party exclusively call your character the professor? The teacher background will probably ensure that that happens. Backgrounds are all mechanically simple and easy to understand, and there's bound to be one for you. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Alright, so one of the more important aspects of every background is how they impact your ability scores. Depending on your particular background, you get two different ability boosts. One of these abilities boosts is flexible, and you can put it into any ability score, but the other one is special. It can only be put into two different ability scores dependent on what your background actually is. As an example, the Martial Disciple background allows you to put this ability score into either strength or dexterity, because obviously you were training your body as a Martial Disciple, and it'd be silly if your body wasn't at least slightly toned. The Teacher background requires that you put a boost into either intelligence or wisdom, as you really need at least one of those to be a decent teacher. With the combination of this free boost and the restricted boost, you can make literally every background work with every class. I'm not kidding. It might not seem super optimal to boost your intelligence on a barbarian, but it will in no way handicap your character. Another way that backgrounds mechanically impact characters is through skill training. Every background gives you the trained proficiency in two different skills. One of them is related to a skill that happens with whatever you're doing before you adventured, like Arcana if you were a student at a wizarding college. The other is a common lore associated with your background. For that student background that I just mentioned, you would probably get Academia lore because you were in academia. While something like Academia lore might seem like it would be pretty useless to an adventurer, there are always going to be situations where it will be useful, so don't completely ignore them. Plus, due to mandating that every PC is trained in at least one skill that can be used to work and earn an income, everyone will have some justification for all of the wealth that their characters come into if they weren't an adventurer beforehand. And, hey, you can actually have fun in downtime. The final thing that backgrounds give you is a single skill feat. Outside of being a rogue, this is the only way that you're going to be getting a skill feat at level 1. Again, these skills feats will give you abilities that make sense given your character's backstory, and they vary greatly in usefulness. For example, getting dubious knowledge because you were a street preacher is almost certainly going to be more useful than knowing how to put armor on a little bit faster because you were a squire before you decided to go out and be a murder hobo. Despite this difference in power though, I really do recommend ignoring how powerful these skill feats actually are whenever you're deciding on your background. While they might be useful, you easily get enough skill feats normally by leveling up that just one at level 1 isn't going to make a huge difference in the power in the party. Pick what fits your character's backstory. Ultimately, I feel like it's obvious that I love how backgrounds are written in 2e. They take general backstory tropes and then give a tiny bit of mechanical bite to them and make it seem reasonable that your PC actually existed before the start of the campaign and they didn't pop into being, because that kind of breaks the suspension of disbelief. Before I get to my one house rule that I recommend about backgrounds, I'd like to make it clear that it's super easy to make your own backgrounds if none of the official ones somehow manage to not fit the backstory you have in mind. You just have to pick a couple of skills, a skill feat, and how to restrict one of the ability score boosts. It's about as easy as homebrew can possibly get. And now for that recommendation that I mentioned earlier. I highly recommend letting the lore skill granted by the backgrounds scale automatically, as if the PC had gotten their proficiency in that lore skill from the additional lore feat. It helps keep that lore skill relevant for the levels of every campaign, and it's never going to break a campaign's balance. Lore is a super flavorful skill, but it is certainly no powerhouse. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I'm honestly kind of shocked at how much I can talk about something as minor as backgrounds. While they are important, there's only like 4 sentences or rules on them, so I don't know how this video managed to get as long as it is. And I do know that I didn't talk about how rare backgrounds just straight up break the rules and conventions set aside for the other backgrounds, but this is more of an introductory video to them, and just rare backgrounds can get weird, and I would have to talk about every single one individually, and I don't have that kind of time. Let me know what your favorite backgrounds are in a comment down below, or just what you think about them. Regardless of that though, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.